After working diligently during the last several lessons to learn the characteristics of the Baroque and Classical eras, we're going to pause to summarize our understanding. Today's objective: create an artistic representation comparing music of the Baroque and Classical eras. You have a great deal of choice in this lesson, so let's look at details for the project. Ultimately, you will create and submit 2 designs, one representing the musical styles of the Baroque era and one representing musical styles of the Classical era. Your student choices, your topics. You can choose to design 2 cakes, one for Baroque and one for Classical. You can design 2 mythical creatures, one for the Baroque era, one for the Classical. Or you could design sneakers, one sneaker for the Baroque era and one sneaker for the Classical era. Submit to me 2 designs, each representing the Baroque era or the Classical era. So you will not be submitting 6 designs. You will also not be submitting only 1 design. Your design may consist of artwork using the materials of your choice, or you may submit a written description. So consider your talents in these 2 areas and your comfort. If you are more comfortable submitting artwork because you're a capable sketch artist or you love to draw, that's a great way to enter this project. If you're someone who is much more comfortable writing the description down, you have that option as well. The possibilities for the artwork: use any available materials to create your drawing or sketch. Whatever paper you can find at your house, markers, crayons, highlighters, pens, pencils, anything you can find. If the only thing you find available at your house are 2 wrinkly old yellow Post-it notes and a pencil from a previous putt-putt game, use that to create 2 pictures. Or you can design original digital artwork using an app or software. I know some of you dabble in digital art. You can use Google Draw. You could use the drawing feature in Google Docs. Whatever you can imagine, what's important in a digital design is that you are not copying the work of another artist or another person. If you do not submit original work, I will not accept it. Please submit a picture or a screenshot of your artwork. You can submit that through your on-course messages, through my email account at school, or you can upload it to Flipgrid. I'll give you the code on another slide. If you choose to do written work instead, imagine a design for one of the topics. Write a 3 to 4 sentence paragraph for each design, 2 paragraphs total. If you submit only 1 paragraph, the project is incomplete. 1 paragraph for the Baroque era design, 1 paragraph for the Classical era design, and still keeping within our 3 topics of cakes, mythical creatures, or sneakers. Include thoughtful adjectives of the shapes, sizes, and colors of the design. Also include careful details for the location of the elements within the design. A reader should be able to recreate your imagined design after reading your explanation. In fact, if we had 5 of your peers reading your written work, they would probably create very similar pictures if your explanation was thorough. You'll also submit your written work through OnCourse or to my email account in any format that you find comfortable. Here's a model of the work that I hope to see from you. I've chosen my topic as a t-shirt, and I've written, "There is no such thing as a simple white tee. Why cuddle up in comfortable cotton when you could dazzle onlookers with lace ruffled details around your neck, sleeves, and shirt hem? Intricate floral thread designs, green vines and leaves creep from bottom to top, with flowers of red, yellow, blue, purple, and orange dotting the white cotton. No fashionable shirt is complete without beads and jewels sparkling from the center of each flower bud. And because my description is very thorough, you can see the colors that are present in the t-shirt and also the direction the vines are moving. And we're clear of where the lace ruffle details are placed. If you and I were drawing this picture, because it was very clear, you would have a picture very similar to the one that I've created. If you choose to do artwork, right, here's a sample of what I'm looking for. I created a t-shirt to represent the classical era. And you'll notice when you look at the sleeves that although the colors are different, there is symmetry because there are 3 lines at the same angle on each of the sleeves. And then you'll notice if we were to take the t-shirt and fold it in half, we would have a symmetrical design because the lines, the zigzags, and the other lines would be fairly close to lining up on top of one another. And just because I've chosen to design a shirt that represents simplicity, symmetry, and balance does not mean that I cannot use color. I would argue that the colors are balanced because I've used warm colors and cool colors at various places on the t-shirts. Some tips so that you can be successful. Be creative. That's a tricky one. We don't often get to think in creative ways because we're often looking for right and wrong answers. In fact, we spent most of our music lessons with creative answers, but there's always something we're trying to tie that back to. What I need you to do is just imagine one of the designs for our topics and then let your imagination kind of run wild. As long as you are representing the Baroque era and the classical era in your imagination, you've done just fine. As always, give your best effort. It's not worth committing to just about anything if you're not going to give your best effort. And don't overcomplicate things. Some of us are perfectionists. I am definitely one. That t-shirt design that you looked at was probably the 5th or 6th design that I worked on. But don't make it too complicated to finish within a day, right? You may need to take more time to finish it to make yourself comfortable with it. But once you've met the criteria of the assignment, let yourself move on and relax or focus on another content area. Commit to a design that you can be proud of. There's no sense in doing the work if you're not going to be proud of the work that you've done. And while we won't be posting it on the walls of the building, there will be an opportunity for you to share your work on Flipgrid, and you will be sharing it with me. Is it something that you feel good about? And if it's not, what changes should you make to it so that you feel more confident? I've noticed some of you in your lessons, you tend to rush through your work just to get it done. Pause for a bit, breathe deep, and then breathe out, and just keep focusing on making really great product in your work. Remember the focus word for the musical styles of each era. So the focus is not that you design a wonderful cake, a super cool dragon, or a really great pair of Adidas. The focus is that that cake is either simple, to represent the classical era, or that the cake is very fancy to represent the music and the style of the Baroque era. If you kind of veer off that focus word, you're spending a lot of time having great fun doing art or creative writing, but you're not meeting the parameters of the assignment. Don't forget to submit your work. Watching this PowerPoint presentation is not going to be enough to earn 100%. Send your document in an appropriate format as an email attachment, or upload a Flipgrid response. You can see the code on this screen, and if you access the copy of the PowerPoint that I've sent to your on-course classroom, you can also just click on the link to take you there. So many options for your art, many choices for you to make, and many options for the submission of the work. I want you to be comfortable with what you're doing, and I want you to have fun with it. But I want you to remember there's a purpose behind it. Let's look at a few details before you begin. The Baroque era, 1600 to 1750, was a time of extravagance. Fashion, art, architecture, and music were made fancy by ornamentations and embellishments. If you recall the buildings we looked at in the Baroque era, around the windows and doors, there were flourishes of ferns and floral designs, bouquets even, sometimes designs that just looked fancy, like curlicues. Each of these are the elements that we're referring to when we're looking at creating our own artwork. Imagine a Christmas tree so large its width took up nearly an entire room, with the top branches brushing against the ceiling. Now imagine this excessively large tree is adorned with ornaments, garland, ribbons, bows, popcorn strands, and cranberry strands so thick the greenery of the tree is barely visible. Lights and all of their special effects are tossed on the tree. Like the arts in the Baroque era, this tree would be complicated and overwhelming to look at. So imagine, when you've chosen your topic, what your artwork or your creative writing will begin to describe. Then the classical era, 1750 to 1820, was a time of simplicity. Fashion, art, architecture, and music were simplified through balance, symmetry, and refinement. Imagine the buildings that we peeked at that were designed during the classical era. We noticed that they were symmetrical and that around the doors and windows were very simple. One of the only adornments we saw were in simple columns, but at the top they had things that looked like ferns or flowers, only at the top and near the bottom of those columns. Imagine a Christmas tree perfectly trimmed to be exactly symmetrical from every angle. The tree is perfectly sized for the room it is in, neither too wide nor too tall. Ornaments are carefully spaced, equally distanced from one another. Light ropes are thoughtfully placed to illuminate the tree's simple beauty. Garland is draped equally distant from the lights that encircle the tree. A glance at the tree is clean, easy to appreciate and understand. The decorations are placed with perfect symmetry. This beautiful simplicity is not unlike music of the classical era. So now focus on your classical era design. What have you imagined for your topic that would represent the simplicity that we're speaking of? I hope you enjoy your assignment with a chance to be creative and thoughtful. I look forward to seeing your work. Please give your best effort and be well. I'll see you guys again soon.